So we should go live any second. Let's hope for it. And let's hope I can mute myself before. Yes, we can. Excellent. So welcome. And I'm happy to be here after a short break. And this time we do have kind of a first time, because we are 4 people on the call, and you will know why in a second. But before we jump into this, I want to say hi, and I am looking forward. Building Reactive X. This is the wrong link. Let's see. It's playing something. Are we live? Can you see this? Excellent. Cool. Yeah, so YouTube is doing things to me anyways. So yeah, as always, if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button. And if you don't like us, tell us. If you like us, hit the thumbs up button. And as already teased, we do have 4 people on the call, including me. So it's 3 important people plus me. And the leading person today is Julien. He will give a talk, and after this talk, we will have a nice panel discussion. And for this panel discussion, you can still give us your questions. So feel free to put these questions into the chat box, and we will monitor the box, and we'll take these over. And also, if we get into discussions where you say, okay, I have to type too much, ping me, and I will send you the link to join Zoom. Perfect. So that said, I think I'm all good. With us are Julien and Pauline and Urs. And I would say, Julien, you start, and then we introduce the rest of us for the panel round. Enjoy.
Sounds good to me. Can you hear me? All good. That works. You see my screen, I guess. And I hear yes. Okay, let's go. All right. So tonight is going to be not so much hardcore Kotlin, a little more of a soft topic, introducing Kotlin to your organization. And I've made this talk. You'll see why in a second. First of all, this is a little Kotlin. About half of the talk is about Kotlin. The other half is really generic. So if you want to introduce Kubernetes, if you want to introduce, I don't know, whatever you want, you can use a lot of the tips listed in there. First of all, a few things. There's going to be a few questions, and it's online, and I've had a long day just like you. So if you could join and take part of the questions, that'd be great. Have some interaction with me. And the second thing that I want to mention is, and Urs can tell us more about it later, but soon in Amsterdam in May, there's going to be the Kotlin Dev Day. I've heard it was great. Last time I was sick, I couldn't join. This time I'm going to be on the booth, and I think the 3 of us are going to be there, right? I see. Okay. Yes, they're saying yes. So everybody's going to be there. So if you want to meet us in Amsterdam, Kotlin Dev Day soon, you can check the program online. Really quickly, who am I? My name is Julien. I will spare you the last name. I'm a developer advocate at a company called Adyen, and we do payments. And recently, I'm a Kotlin Google developer expert, and you can find me online at @Lengrand. And if you want to talk, well, we can talk Kotlin. I organize a lot of meetups, but I also grow my own food. So if you want to chat about that, we can do that. This talk, we're going to look at Kotlin a little bit today, how it stands, and we're also going to look at tips on how to convince colleagues and management. Like if you want to really get Kotlin into your company, you're really excited about it. How can you do it? Can you do it? And the reason why this talk has been created is back in the time I was a team lead at ING a couple of years back, and I was responsible for a bunch of applications, no greenfield, existing stuff for like 6-7 years old applications. They were stuck on Java 8, not because we wanted to, but because there was some tooling to upgrade. And as a team, we really wanted to keep learning, keep experimenting, grow, functional programming, all those nice topics. So we decided to take a shot at Kotlin, and we really wanted to move forward with it on production. And everything is nicely written in the blog. So if you want to go and have a bite, and instead of listening to me for 30 minutes, you can go and read that instead. So the reason for me to write it, to talk about that, is because you have convincing, sounds easy, but the Kotlin stuff is not that hard, but you have convincing to do at many levels, right? First of all, you have to convince your colleagues, get them as excited as you are. But then, especially me, if I work in a bank, you have security, you have compliance, you have management, everything. You have to go through a lot of hoops. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But first, I think everybody's going to be very much aware of all things. So first of all, let's look at Kotlin today. And my first question here, which one is the youngest language in that list? And I would love to see some people in the Slido so far. I see nobody. I'm going to give it 30 seconds. I don't know about any German jokes, so I can't fill in the space.
We shouldn't. This might go too far. But yes, let's give it a second.
Do we have anyone on YouTube? Otherwise, I just keep going.
So yeah, no. It's 12 people, so it should be fine. So you see, there it is.
Oh, we do have some people. Okay, nice. Let's wait a bit more. Don't want to spoil it for now. 5 people. We're gonna wait a bit.
Yeah, you see.
Okay.
It's getting a raise. Okay.
5 more seconds. Finally, we have one right answer. So the youngest language is actually Kotlin. Rust and Go are both older than Kotlin. And I didn't know about that, but yeah, that's a fact. So that's funny because, you think Java, you think old, you think Rust is quite new on the block, but actually Kotlin has been brewing less than Rust and Go, not by much, but a little bit. Some numbers, I don't get them out of thin air. That's from JetBrains, but yeah, last year they said that they had so far 4.8 million people having tried Kotlin at some point, like unique, unique people having tried the language. And it's the 4th most loved programming language from a study from 2020. And, I put it there because I like it. And it actually taught a lot in universities. I don't know about you, when I was at university, Python was the language. Now it seems to be Kotlin more and more, and I really like that. And for me, a few things that tell me that Kotlin is here to stay. A lot of people are saying, yeah, it's going to disappear. It's like Groovy. I see more and more big companies making bets on Kotlin. And to me, that's very a good sign of a healthy environment. So, Google choosing Kotlin for Android, of course, Kotlin Foundation, but now AWS announcing idiomatic Kotlin, and also Kotlin multi-platform coming out of beta. So I see good signs as an industry that we're moving forward with Kotlin. That's enough for me to be convinced. Not going to spend much time on that because that's a Kotlin meetup. You all know that. But a few reasons why I love Kotlin. Remember, a team lead, so I don't know how to code. Now I'm a developer advocate. I don't even put stuff on production anymore. So I like simple things. Ceremony, right? Obvious. You don't have to write your constructors anymore. Variables, constructors, automatic defaults, all of those things. Obvious and great. And no Lombok. Did you see that? That's good, huh? Second of all, concurrency. Right. I mean, Java is catching up, right? They're doing good stuff with the async. By the way, that comes from one of your, originally one of your blogs, yours. Yeah, coroutines, easy to work with, simple to read. Everybody likes that. But there comes the stuff that I really like. As I said, I'm not that good, but I really like good functional programming. I've done some Elm, and I really love when everything is explicit and simple to read, right? Java is doing its best, but you have streams and you have collect in the mix. You have to use equals because the double equals doesn't really work. All of those things. And Kotlin on the right side has the default parameter with it. You can export the functions out of the function your functions. All of those things are quite nice when you do functional programming. And of course, for me, the best feature ever. Algebraic data types, sealed classes, and the when expressions that goes with it, where you have smart casting, and then you have errors before even you compile because your IntelliJ is telling you forgot one case. All of that is just amazing for me. That's my best top 1 feature of Kotlin, if you ask me. So let's do it, right? I have a big Java code base. I have a 7-year-old Java code base running on JDK 8. I'm gonna go to Kotlin. First thing, okay, right click, take a Pojo, right click, convert to Kotlin. Done, haha. IntelliJ tells me, okay, I see that you have Kotlin. Do you want to add, the Kotlin part for Maven? Sure, I'll do that. Hey, I see you're using Kotlin in your Maven. Do you want to install Kotlin? Sure. You're on version 1.3 here. We're on version 1.6 now. Don't forget that. Stand back. Okay, we just have to push now, and it works, right? 30 minutes, we've pushed to production. Amazing. Now, okay, but that's where the work really starts, right? Now we have convincing to do. I have to convince my colleagues. I have to convince security. I have to convince compliance. I have to convince management. And that's where the fun begins. And that's why this talk exists. So first of all, let's start with the easy one, right? I want to convince people around me. Well, the very beginning, before convincing people, you kind of have to convince yourself, right? So if you're Java developers, I would recommend look at this Kotlin for Java developers course from Svetlana. She's still at JetBrains, I believe. And then make sure that you know a little more than your colleagues. That helps, right? And help other people. Like if they have questions, you don't have to know stuff. You don't have to know everything, but come back a day or two later with an answer to them, for them. And don't minimize potential issue. That's my secret sauce. I don't know is fine, but bullshitting an answer is not fine, right? You're going to lose trust in people. So just say, I don't know, I'll come back to you tomorrow. And then over time, you'll see that your old knowledge grows and the confidence in your team as well. And then you have to get others on board. And if they don't trust you with their code base just yet, because they kind of have to review your stuff, well, what we've done at ING is we found a fun event, and we brought fun inside the company. And there was a good way for people to try Kotlin just for fun. You don't tell them that you have a secret agenda just yet. You tell them it's advent of code, use the language that you want. For those of those that don't know, it's a kind of a programming, it's a competition, I guess. It's like Advent. How do you call that in English? Calendrier Advent calendar, where every day you get a new question and you have to solve it with the tool of your choice. Some people choose PowerPoint. Well, I went for Kotlin. And then once people are starting into the language, then we started doing cohorts. And what is a cohort? You basically tell, you know what, every Thursday between 3 and 5, I will teach you Kotlin and we can go through that book together, or we can go through that course together. And then you answer the questions. And that's kind of how we went 20 by 20 through a lot more people knowing Kotlin. And the last one was onboarding sessions. Like some people are afraid of touching production code. They've tried at home, they really like the language, but they're like, oh my God, it's ING code, I don't want to do it. Well, I'll come with you, we'll do it together. When I leave, you have some Kotlin running on production. Those are the three things that we've used to convince our colleagues. And now starts the second part, which is even more fun. Security and compliance, the fun guys. Well, I don't have ready-made answers for you, but I can tell you what worked for us. So first of all, writing on the JVM way, right? You are running a JVM language. It's not Haskell. So you can go and say, you know what, 90% of everything is going to be fine. The surface of attack is not much bigger. Most of it is actually good. So you scale it, still scare them, but a little less. And then what I recommend is, sounds easy, we're blasting open doors here, but don't bring problems. Tell them, I want to bring Kotlin. What do I have to do? But what we came with was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're trying that. And we offer those solutions. And where we cannot do what you recommend, we will offer this thing. And we've made it in the format of their documents. So they just had to add the documents into their library. Surprisingly, that works. And that's what I call become part of the team, right? So come to them, discuss with them, show them the stuff you're doing, and then just become friends with them and understand their problems. And if you have a problem, because it will happen, just make sure that you own your choices, right? Come to them and solve the problem with them, right? Maybe go with their manager to some meetings or involve security at a high level. That happens. And the last one is actually quite important. Most people just try to convince people it's good to listen because they don't have the same problems as you, right? They see the problems from a completely different angle as the one you see. So listen to what they are trying to reach because you can help them there. All right, so now we've convinced all the tech people, stays with management, right? That's the biggest hurdle left. A few things, small experiment, easy, right? And again, this is a list. You don't have to use them all, right? That's why there was a toolbox at the beginning of the talk. Just pick the one that you feel are most relevant we have used them all actually over time, but feel free to just start with something and see. And the first one, easy one, is a small experiment, right? You don't have to go very up. You just go to your manager, your N+1, and you say, you know what? I'm going to make a small experiment, completely risk-free, because we can reverse it at any point in time. It's just going to take 2 hours, and it's contained. It's just one POJO, right? But at the moment you have one POJO in production, you can tell to whoever wants to hear it that you have Kotlin in production, right? It's just one line, but it's Kotlin in production. And then you've made your own reality, right? So our team, just one application, no overhead, not going to take more time, and that worked for us. And then what most people forget is once you have done that, communicate about progress, right? And not only to the manager, but communicate to your teams, to the teams around you, maybe to a meetup, say, okay, that's what we're doing. We said we were doing that and we're here. Verbalize the next steps that they are. And why? Because it brings people with you in the story, right? And if you're succeeding, people want to ride on the wave, right? So they're going to try as well. And that helps you. And improve in public, right? Also mention your failures, because failure also, it's going to be failures that other people don't do, right? So it also helps you in the long run. I see most people forgetting that step. They get a yes, and then a month later, someone comes back and say, now it's no. And then they don't realize why. And well, because you haven't told anyone where you are, what you've done, etc. Now, my second question. What is the second most used JVM language in the world, according to SNCC? We get the data where we can. So did I make people flee? Is everybody having dinner? No, there's still people here. Nice. Oh, that's fun. Okay, Groovy. Well, when was the last time you saw Groovy in production? I haven't seen any Groovy in production ever.
You didn't ask for production. You just said
okay.
Well, yeah. JVM.
That's a good point.
If I just think about a Gradle.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. All right.
But yeah, it would be a bit scary if we would have a lot of Groovy code on production, and I might get some hate post on this, but I stand for it.
I don't hate on anything. Everybody has their own fetish, But yeah, so according to SNCC, of course, I think that's about 5,000 developers, if I remember correctly, but it's the second year in a row that they see that Kotlin is the second most developed language. Like there's most people developing on Kotlin. And if you look, there's more than 100% because a lot of people are doing many things at the same time. But yeah, Kotlin seems to grow, not as much as Java, of course. And then we have to realize that Java is going faster now as well. And they have new stuff coming up. You have Quarkus coming up. So it's getting younger again. Java is like second use or something. But Kotlin is still growing year after year and is taking over Groovy and Scala. So what I'm trying to say here is use numbers. Management, they're used to numbers. They want to see success numbers. And the numbers, you kind of have to choose them. But you kind of have to show success for your management, right? That's what they have to report. Maybe they can use your success to be their success. This is one example of number that kind of counts, right? If you have a lot of Scala developers in-house, then maybe you say, oh, Kotlin is growing. We have to see the wave before it writes, or maybe you see Java. What at the time I was using a lot at ING, there was a time with a lot of migrations, and it kind of had retention numbers, and we had discussions around happiness at work. And I was saying, maybe we can help get those numbers growing a little bit again with Kotlin by introducing new stuff in the house, because we cannot bring new funny stuff at the moment. We're doing migrations, but Kotlin doesn't come at a cost, right? You can still do some stuff on the side. So I was using those numbers, whatever number fits your story, I would say. And one thing that I want to remember is your manager doesn't have the same objectives as you, right? So adapt your language, and there is no wrong question. I come back to that later maybe, but I had my manager, when I said I wanted to bring Kotlin in production, they said, yeah, is that a replacement to AngularJS? And that's the moment where you really don't want to laugh. And you don't want to, say, you're a manager, you don't understand anything, because you want to make it your ally, right? So you take the time, you sit and you explain and you make a drawing, and everybody gets happy at the end of the meeting. Yes, one more thing, find your heroes. They might be a big fan of the language. Maybe your CTO has looked into the blog and then is really tempted. Maybe someone can benefit from that. Maybe the R&D department started using it and they're looking for a replacement for Python because Python is not JVM. Maybe for me, my biggest ally was, again, marketing, surprisingly, tech branding, right? Very simple, but at the time we were doing Java, again, migrations, you go tech branding, and all of a sudden you can do meetups and you can invite people and the workplace becomes a bit more fun. So they will spread the word for you. They will make it exciting for you. So there are always heroes inside the company. They're not always where you expect them. Usually they are not next to you. So you kind of have to go and fish around. And the second one is, bring them from the outside. Well, there's 3 in the room now, but I'm sure a lot of people would be getting very excited to come at, company X and talk about Kotlin. And that's typically what I've been doing. I've been bringing a lot of people. When I had my ID in mind, I was like, okay, who is relevant? And then every time there was a conference around, I was like, hey, what are you doing the day before or the day after the conference? How about you come and then, I get you free lunch. And then you make it free for everybody, right? It's totally no strings attached. People come and then you introduce the stuff you want inside the company. Well, except you still have your agenda, right? You're spreading Kotlin as time goes. And that really helped us. And I'm still thanking Trish. By the way, she's the reason why I'm in developer relations now. So I really thank her for that. That was following that discussion. But yeah, she gave 3 talks during the day. She talked to 160 people. I made sure that management was in the room. That really helped me. So you make your choice a reality, right? Kotlin is inside the company. Another one, depending on what kind of manager you have, of course, you can find authority. Some people really care about titles. I don't personally care, but it does help. When you say I'm a Google developer expert, not everybody is. So you kind of have, I don't know, a little stamp of authority somehow, and it helps carrying your story over. For Kotlin, there is a GDE title, but for Kubernetes, there are certifications, there are courses, there are many ways to bring that authority. That can be useful for you. It wasn't for us, but. And one example that I personally love is create your own reality. There's a company from friends of mine, Ximedes, and they're a consultancy company, and they were kind of, done with Java. And they wanted to do only Kotlin, except most of their customers, they are doing Java, right? They're banks. A lot of their customers are banks. So what they did, they wrote a blog post where they said, for us, we do Kotlin, right? Kotlin is the default language. And then every time they were trying to get a contract, at the end, they were saying, by the way, we do Kotlin. And then the manager was like, yeah, but this is going to be Java. And they're like, well, you know what? If you have to convince internally, we have this statement, we only use Kotlin. And because that's at the end of the negotiation, and because they stated they taking the risk, then somehow it helps a lot. They created their own reality. Ximedes does only Kotlin. Why? Because Ximedes said that they're only doing Kotlin. And I had a good discussion with that, with Johan. He's the CTO there, and I really helped them actually. And I'm gonna finish by saying one thing: don't forget, don't be a zero. There is convincing, there is getting excited about something, and there is like tab versus spaces or VIM versus Emacs. Don't do that. There is very simple reason for that: is there will be another fight tomorrow, and if you go too far, tomorrow you will not have credit anymore. But if you do it in the right way, you will have much less work to do to convince the day after. So don't forget about that. Yeah, I'm actually done. I made it fast so that we can go with the panel, because that's going to be where the value is, I think. I want to thank Hilke de Vries for the help, because what I didn't mention at the beginning is we were actually 2 people in the same team going forward. And I should have mentioned it, but he was a former pen tester. And then when we went to security and he said, you know what, I'm a former pen tester, Kotlin is all right. Then for us, it was already won, right? Because he had enough credit, talking about authority again. So I want to thank him. He really helped along the way. And that's it for it. So I'm going to put it there, and I want to know what's your biggest blocker, because that's what we're going to make the panel with. And I thank you, everyone. Yes? Should I keep it like this? Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
There? I have a few fun questions that people asked me, because I didn't talk about it, but the putting Kotlin on production was 30 minutes on Friday afternoon with the beer, with Hilke. And getting the approval, the official approval, so that the team goes on with Kotlin by default was, I think, about a year and a half total. Right? You kind of have to be consistent about it. But I left 2 years later, and 2 years later, we had, I think, about 20, 25 teams going with Kotlin. So once you pave the way, people follow. So you kind of have to believe, I think.
It's always a long run, right? And it highly depends on the environment you are in. But we can get to this in the panel.
Yeah. We're getting stuff. That's awesome.
Awesome, yes. And I love that you kept track of the numbers, because it shows that it's like it's 30 minutes on a Friday, and you're if you do things like this on a Friday, you are really convinced on everything will be fine.
And I was the third beer, right? So
who's counting? But yeah. All right, so what's going on actually?
You guys hear the kids crying or not?
No, it's all good.
That's all right. Okay.
All good. Right, so we have still 12 people on the call on YouTube, and we do get some questions in. Perfect.
I think we can keep those. Maybe keep that slide.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, let's go. I'll follow your lead, Holger.
Yeah, the only thing is, if we keep the slide, only the currently speaking person is in the view.
Right. So do I get it back? Oh boy. Let's see.
I hope so.
I'm gonna take a picture so we can go back to it. Oh yes.
Oh, good.
Easy.
Yeah. Technology.
All right.
Yeah. Right. So, because what we will do now is thanks for your contributions, and I should look into the camera, not into the screen where I can see it. And we will take these questions and we'll get into the panel point now. And this is a good time, I think, to introduce our two other guests, which are Pauline and Urs. And Pauline, say hi.
Hi.
Excellent. All training. Do you want to introduce yourself in?
Yes, for sure.
I'm taking 2 minutes. I'm coming back.
Yeah, I'm Pauline van Alst. I'm working at Open Value as a software engineer, helping out clients to do some software innovation, help them out there. I am working with Kotlin since 2017 and also been talking about it ever since then, because I'm really passionate about the language and ecosystem. And as of 2020, I'm a Kotlin GD as well. So that enables me to give them some more talks and to spread the word even more. So that's me.
Perfect, thank you. And also with us is Urs Peters. Hi.
Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone. Yeah, Urs Peters, that's indeed my name. Urs is the first name, Peters the last name. It's also a bit difficult. I'm also working for quite a long time with Kotlin, about 5 years ago. I did before, of course, Java like everyone, but that's a really long time ago. And then I hopped on the Scala train, where also actually did quite a lot. I became trainer. I developed a lot of training also for Scala, Akka, the whole stack. But then when Kotlin came around, then I really, for my personal journey, I saw the light. Thought this is just a sweet spot, which allows me to do everything I can do. And I tell this because, I think in terms of a background, it's kind of interesting when you have seen Java, which is really the kind of Stone Age approach, and Scala, which is too sophisticated, and then to have this thing in between, that's really great thing. Yeah, and because I was already trained, I really love to do trainings. Also invested heavily in Kotlin. Also created trainings there, beginner trainings, advanced trainings, and also certified trainer by now by JetBrains. So in that sense, I also help companies actually with their educational part of Kotlin, also from a large perspective. And of course, every day also I have my assignments and I code in Kotlin and have a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. So what are when people get to you, I think it's already past the thing of why should we use Kotlin? Because they come to you to get help with Kotlin. But what are the usual reasons you're given why people or companies switch to Kotlin and then want to ramp up the knowledge?
Well, last week I had a company, they said they wanted to have a proper enterprise language. So they they made the choice to switch to Kotlin. I think that's a pretty good reason, right?
Oh yeah. It is.
Yeah. And what I heard the most is that the companies want to attract people, which is a hard thing to do nowadays. Mm-hmm. And they discovered that Kotlin is attracting more and more software engineers if they put that in their vacancies, in their job vacancies. So that is also a reason to bring Kotlin into your company. Managers are always worrying about hiring, about human resources and stuff. So that's a good argument to bring Kotlin into the organization from their perspectives, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen this as well, and it's an interesting take. When I reflect on this, it's like there is some risk in it, but on the other hand, it also shows that because Kotlin does have the backing, there is JetBrains behind it. It's still developed in the open, and in theory, you're still running on the JVM. So security-wise, on production environments, you still can use this argument with it's JVM, it's bytecode, it's
exactly
right. And but it's interesting to see that this is not only in my bubble, because it's like usually what happens is I tend to be in a bubble from time to time. Cool. Uz, from your side, what is usually given to you as a few reasons why people switch to Kotlin? Because when they get to you, it's like the decision is made.
So it's quite interesting. I also looked at the survey of JetBrains, which I do every year to see which kind of developers are stepping over to Kotlin, where they're coming from. So it's generally 90% just did Java and then it's called Kotlin. It's mostly the young guys who adopt it. It's not the Java people do it for many years. That's also what you see. And this is also actually what I encounter more or less in practice. And what's also, by the way, written there is that about 90% is bottom up. So it's really a movement that is unleashed by developers, not really by management, but 4% by management. That's exactly also the way I encounter it. So I get some enthusiastic guy on the line which says, okay, we started something. I did quite interesting, I'm still doing that assignment at the Rabobank, which is a competitor of ING. Were interesting, your talk. Rabobank addressed it slightly different, but of course a lot of things that they are more or less the same. But when they actually then talk to me, what they often have is that they did some basic courses, so people, they know how to find this button of convert Java to Kotlin, and then they know that you don't have to use Lombok. That's how far they go, but in the end it doesn't yet really pay off, and they're actually looking for a way to scale the knowledge to an extent where really can get the most out of Kotlin. And this
That's true. That's actually something I haven't touched at all. Like if you want to go Spring Java to Kotlin, it's probably fine. If you want to start using K-Clore and coroutines from you kind of have to go, a different route, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. And interestingly, so from what I've seen so far is this is the more common way. So you have like web projects which were previously done in Java and Spring Boot, and now people just switch out Java with Kotlin and just continue on the Spring Boot path.
That's true.
And then down the road, the idea pops up with, can we do it a bit different maybe? But Spring is still a valid choice, right? But there are also some additional choices you get with Ktor, for example. Right. So
that's a very
Julien,
interesting one. Maybe just to hang on, because in Scala, what I've seen, what was a real big issue with Scala is that when you chose for the new language, you also chose for a complete new set of frameworks, which were particularly complex. And I think this is the sweet spot of Kotlin, that you keep on using Spring Boot. If you really go down the pure Kotlin road, I think you will easier lose people and make the stepping over more difficult, because framework knowledge is a big portion of knowledge developers have is in frameworks, not really in languages. And making it only necessary to get a new language to actually even better use your framework, I think is a very strong sales argument we also use for management. Hey, it's just a language, it gives you a lot of more benefits, safer code and so on, but you can stick to your framework. And that's still the thing really sell to these big companies, say just stick with your Spring Boot, that's fine.
And it's not only fine. Spring Boot is also really following Kotlin evolution closely.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's becoming more. When we started, it was a bit awkward to integrate Kotlin and Spring Boot all together. But now it's feeling Spring Boot is really hopping on the train and supporting Kotlin all the way. There is the Kotlin DSLs on lots of the parts of Spring Boot. So it's a very, very valid choice to use Kotlin and Spring Boot all together. It's not a choice by default, for sure.
Yeah, but it's also a nice way to get into the waters, and also proving, and this is something I think, Julien, you showed nicely, that that it's mainly about proving that things work, and reassuring everyone, especially non-technical people, that it won't impact the production or the business negatively. On the complete contrary point, it will get better for reasons. If you don't mind, folks, I think, Julien, you took a screenshot of what we got on Slido. How about to go over these one by one?
If I find a screenshot, yes. Inertia, training and recruiting, said someone. Inertia is a big one. I mean, you can, I don't know, somehow I've been in the industry for 12 years, and even if I'm in a team of people that are brilliant, there are still people using loops. There are a lot of people still using Java 8. No, but inertia is a big thing. And heck, I mean, maybe I'm getting old, but I start seeing it in myself as well. Tech people start, it sounds stupid, but people, as you get older, you get your preferences, and inertia is a big thing. And you mentioned Spring Boot. On top of that, there is business value. I mean, we were using Spring, but we were not using vanilla Spring, right? We were using Spring plus that layer of business stuff on top. So you can't just move. So inertia is a big one, I think. And that's true if you want to start using Kubernetes, or if you want to start anything really, you kind of have to really go for the long run. And then start with the small wins. Well, I mean, if you have greenfield project and motivated people, that's one way to go, right? But if you want to go with the flock, and as a team lead for me, that was the 80%, right? The people that didn't have the chance to do greenfield, you kind of have to go for the long run, and then the small wins, and then just create your new normality, like the new normal, But yeah, that's my take on it. What do you think, Pauline?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think migrating from Java to Kotlin, for instance, that's not a big deal, and it's a safe deal where you can still deliver business features to your business while migrating to your new language code, to your new coding language. We did it at bol.com actually in my team, where we just migrated to full Kotlin in a few months. We have to be patient and consequent, because you don't want to end up in a hybrid solution that will last forever. But if you have a team which has a discipline, it works perfectly fine. Greenfield, of course, that's the easiest solution. And then you can experiment with also other frameworks that are there in the Kotlin ecosystem. I think the biggest challenge is to get the team along, but not only the team, also people outside the teams, because teams are switching more than applications are actually being built. So you need to get a lot of people on board if you really want to do such a migration.
Just
I didn't put it there, but there's this nice graph, of like the early adopters and then the majority and the laggards, and that's you kind of have to go over the ramp
Yes,
before
a big ramp.
you get critical mass. Yeah.
One of our guests on YouTube, Firi, I hope it's the right pronunciation.
Yeah.
He mentioned that they use Spring Boot with a mixture of Java and Kotlin intertwined, and this is something which is absolutely fine. And honestly, I like this a bit more than the just do tests in Kotlin then, because then tests is something you can do it, you get a feeling for it, but it's not. We can't show it's making production better. We can't show that the interaction itself works and all these things. And it's like to having like small new features or small reviews done in Kotlin is actually a nice idea here.
Yeah, but if you're doing such a thing, intertwine the two languages, make sure you have agreements. Which parts are Java, which parts are Kotlin. So it's very clear where those languages are used.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's actually having a strategy instead of just doing something. Exactly. This can be hybrid or just rewrite everything at once. Probably also not a very good idea because the business value will be limited. But I think the strategy thing is an important approach, which is also a bit hard because you need to kind of agree on it and sit on table. And of course, many ways I can do it. So what I've seen in practice is you can give certain recipes to success, but in the end, people also need to do it and need to decide and also need to stick to it. That's of course also a very important one.
Yeah, your migration strategy should also move along with the learning curve that the team's into it, right? Don't start with the difficult things. Start with just migrating your Java objects, describing your business classes. That's very easy, and then learn along with the team and migrate your whole service.
And it's always. It goes a little bit against what you guys are saying, but for us, we also had people that were afraid of not being able to use, and I don't know, Scala somehow, I've never done Scala in my life, but it has scarred a lot of people somehow, and people are afraid, like, I don't want to do, and then when you train them a little bit with Kotlin, they're like, okay, sure, but they're still afraid of not being able to do something. And we kind of have an agreement where it's like, okay, if it's too difficult for you, you can always do everything in Kotlin, but that part in Java, just put it somewhere else, and then we'll take a Friday afternoon and then we'll go through it together. But again, we kind of have to be in a Kotlin that is Java-ish in a certain way. Like you can't go too far away from the tree. But that worked for us as well, like especially juniors that were like, yeah, but I mean, it's a 2-point story. I can't just spend 3 days doing Kotlin. I was like, okay, it's fine. Do all the posers in Kotlin. The business logic, the 20 lines that you have to write, we'll rewrite them together.
Yeah, that's the on-the-job coaching, which I think is very important. It's of course time-consuming, but I think you get a great effect if you have some people that can do that. Yeah. So maybe that's the interesting story. We do it at the Rabobank. Maybe we can just kind of frame it because it's a bit in contrast what you did at ING. So they also started very organically with some courses. Also a guy from Opel Value does, Ali. A lot of contact with him, a great guy. They started the Kotlin movement, so they directly kind of coupled it also to their internal knowledge organization. And from there on, they let people do some workshops, maybe a day to really have some basics, and then they let them more or less go. And as time went by, I said, they reached a sort of a ceiling where they couldn't improve any further. So that's where we came in with training. And actually more thought, not only training, but really kind of, we call it the Kotlin mastery journey. How can you kind of incorporate some sort of journeys for developers that they see, okay, I started with this stage, going to the next stage, and in the end, I can become an expert. There's a certain path involved with it, also a certain amount of time you need to do it, just to give them also a bit of challenge and perspective where they can grow to. And not everybody likes it, of course, but especially managers like these kind of stories because this gives people also opportunity to grow within the organization with a certain technology. This was actually the axis from internal knowledge, but we also had an axis where people could actually spread their knowledge to other people's more. So you also have some sort of making more organizational impact accidentally with Kotlin, because it's a new language, so you need to help people. And this also management liked a lot, because then people also were able to maybe give presentations internally, do this kind of coaching with other people. But to do the coaching, you also need to have passed certain trainings, a certain amount of time doing it with Kotlin, so that you have more or less a good feeling that this person really knows more or less what he's talking about. That's where we are right now in, and so far they kind of liked it. They kind of like it.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really, really important and interesting. The learning on the job and helping each other to learn in the long run helps the company to stay agile enough to go wherever they need to go, completely regardless of the actual language. If out of the sudden, for whatever reason, they decide to go away from the JVM, or I don't know, whatever happens, because of this culture you build up with this, it's easier to react and to try out things and switch back, which is a huge benefit for a company, which ties in again with keeping people interested, attracting new people, keeping the people with you already up to date, right? It's a really nice take on this.
There is a question that kind of touched upon it. Like teams are too busy with short-term goals to invest in the new language. And past the Kotlin thing, as a former team lead, that's like big red flag for me. And I was saying that again this afternoon, like as a developer, I feel like part of your job is, it's like a footballer that only does competitions. It's like, yeah, you can't just only be doing competitions all day. Like that's not how it works. You kind of have to train, you have to learn new stuff, you have to see other people do, you have to rest. I mean, and I'm not saying resting is part of the job, but it is normal as a team to spend time learning new things and or refining new things and or spreading. You just mentioned spreading knowledge. Is it EOS or ORS, by the way?
ORS, yeah, it's ORS, yeah.
ORS. If you don't do that, then you have a problem either at team level or at like organization level, and I feel that's not Kotlin you should start with. It's maybe that problem.
But it's actually an argument I've heard many times, also for even startup
That's
companies.
True.
And it's really a tough one. Yeah.
I mean, I hear it about everything, right? I'm a developer advocate. I try to get more content out there, and blogging is the same problem. I don't have time to blog. We're too busy with the sprint. It's like, well, yes, that is correct. But you can also, a sprint contains what you want to put in it, right? So you can always bring new stuff. So you kind of have to make time for it. There's no other way.
Yeah.
You also have this, Pauline, in your endeavors, this argument?
Yeah, I was really lucky being at organizations where there were already like hack days in place, like one day of the sprint was dedicated to programmers to do whatever they wanted. And I would actually advise if management is very afraid of new things or really want people to only work on sprint features, which I really don't understand, just introduce a hack afternoon or a hack 2 hours, whatever. Just small, don't make it too big. And ask your teammates to do something they really like, but which can be a unique selling point to management, and then you will see that also management will be convinced about those time dedicated to learn new things, because people will get enthusiastic, but there will also be some very nice ideas, because what you see is that software engineers also think about the products that they're developing. So it's not only technical improvements, but it can also be some really nice new features that the business haven't come up with, image search in your application, something like that. And if your engineers can show that to the business, that's very good. So a hack day should always come along with a demo of your hack day, where you can show the results to the business, to the product owners, to management, and get them involved. But it's not Kotlin related. It's just very important in a company to give some time to developers to do what they think is needed, to develop themselves or to develop the application. if you give your developers total freedom, they will end up improving your product because they're dedicated to it. They're working on it every day.
You basically can take the talk from slide 24 and start doing the same. Make it cheap, make it small, prove, report, invite people from outside, talk about it, find your heroes.
When we introduced ball.com at ball.com in my team, we introduced Kotlin. We just showed the diffs of the code, like the Java code and the Kotlin code to the product owner. He couldn't read a line of code, but all he saw was the number of lines reduced. And then he started to get enthusiastic a bit.
I love this example, because I think it's like we do lose track of who's responsible for what. The technicians, from the technician side, it's up to us to find the best tool for the job. For the business side, it's to find out what do the customers, the clients, whoever we build something for, so whoever is paying the bills, want. So, and it doesn't mean that the business should decide what technology to use, and it shouldn't be that the technicians decide what to build next. In the sense of coming up with things to build, to pick. Yes, but anyways, you get the idea. And once we get away from this thinking that the management is telling us as technicians what to use and saying, okay, we do use Java. Why? We do have to use
paid for that. Yeah, if you're a developer, you're paid to.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I agree with
and it's
that.
Like, I do get the argument that it's. I think we had this in one of the Slido questions as well, about the hiring aspect to find talents. I get this, but if we say we are looking for people who know how to code, this is something you can teach, right? So you can ramp up skills. It's more about what is the previous experience, what is the overall understanding, and maybe this is like, does this person come from a more functional, from a more object-oriented area? Kotlin is a nice mix, but it still tends to be a bit more on the object-oriented-ish side. Personal view, yeah. Prove me wrong, but you can do both. But then again, you can teach it, but it might take a bit longer. And then it gets easier to go in and say, look, let's maybe try out this language because of, and this is then again going back to your slides, Julien, saying, okay, these are, it's adapted, it's supported, it's bringing us these benefits. So then going back, calculate or communicating it in a way that management understands it. So I spoke a lot again.
No, but I like it. It's a deeper topic, of course, but I feel there's always this duality, and maybe that's why it worked quite nice with Hilke. Hilke was very much deep into the details as to what something has to be looking like, so it's good. And I didn't quite care so much. I just want to get the job done. And then the combination of both allowed us to be on both ends of the scale, you know, like, and I think that made it interesting. Like, but I agree with you. As a developer, you kind of, I feel, and if you are, especially in the job market now, if you are in a place where your opinions or your proposals are not weighed and listened to, then yeah, that's a problem, because that's what you should be doing. You're not here to, you know, write code. You're here to solve a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And this is so important. Just to understand that it's like, in the end, a nice quote I heard was like, we are not getting paid for the line of code we write. It's for,
I hope so.
Yeah, so
you'll get paid less with Kotlin.
Yeah, okay, go back to Java then. No, but it's more about we build something which solves a problem. How we do it is, in the end, not really the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, you get into the discussion of, you have to bring people with you, right? You're not the only one rowing on the boat.
Yes,
you're all rowing, but
this is communication, and team dynamic. If you have a good culture, in the sense of we can discuss things, we can try out things. I love the idea of hack days. or giving out other incentives to just try out things, and then go back and say, look, we achieved this, and by the way, we got to that. What do you think about this? And then this is an amazing thing. And then if you see you're the only one, you might want to reflect on why.
You should never do such a thing on your own. Like Julien said, it's very good to have a companion, especially a companion that's a bit different than you, so you can grow together and improve yourselves. But also, it shouldn't be we are the developers and they are the business and they are management. No, we are working together in a product, and we can bring in ideas to improve everything, and you can bring in ideas to improve everything, and let's just work together to that same goal. And that's why you should get everyone involved towards any type of innovation that you want to get into your company, right? When we wanted to do CI/CD, we had to get the business on because we wanted to release more often, So, and the same goes with languages. The same goes with coding languages, because at the end of the day, your manager is responsible for hiring people, and you should respect that responsibility, which is...
Yeah, and you shouldn't hide this. And this is, again, Julien, you brought this nicely with don't hide the not so nice things.
Exactly.
Nothing comes for free, right? And especially dark magic comes at a price.
Yeah, and people trust you so much more if you're talking about when you fail, right?
Yeah.
Nobody succeeds all the time. So,
Yeah,
hey Thierry, how are you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to have you.
Thanks for coming on short notice.
No problem. No problem.
But you threw in some nice comments. So I thought actually Julien put me up to this.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you want me to give a small explanation? Of kind of what happened. So I came in a little bit late in the project. I didn't start right in the beginning, so I've got a view of at a certain point. We had a code base which was all Java, Groovy testing Java, obviously for production code, as Julien quietly pointed out. That's how it should be. And then basically we forked the repository because it was all against, we were all integrating against a monolith system, and then we all went microservices. So we had to basically fork the database and then start integrating. So then we decided to actually start migrate, just as you say, just taking some of the small services that we integrated with, doing those in Kotlin as a team, because obviously when you're a microservice team, you often can just define your tools. I mean, you've usually got some sort of company-wide, code deploy strategy, whatever that all is, your AWS, whatever you're linking to, some platform team. But the whole point of most microservice teams is you can make those decisions. And as you say, it's just running on Java. I mean, it's just compiled by code. It's just the source code that is really different in the end. You can package your stuff and just deploy it as per Java, really. So the team decided apparently to do that. I wasn't at that decision point. So they just did it with a few services, tested those out. Obviously, a lot of the guys had to learn it. So I guess that's sometimes a bit of a stopper, depending on people, if they want to change. But most developers, if it's something new and exciting, and they can see some benefits, except you're sitting in 1.8, which the old code base was, we use Gradle, and it worked very well. It just slowly went along, and then slowly we actually started migrating. So we still had the original code base repository that is currently actually live as of today, but we are actually then using a load balancer to load balance the guys onto the new stuff, and that is 50% the way through the migration, and is going very well.
You have like the golden project, right? You have a monolith that works that you have to separate into, into microservices that you can try to test again.
You can try, yeah.
I wish I had that.
It was how long? It was a year and something, I think, year and a half maybe to do it. Launched on time, I think early by one day, on budget. And
Beautiful.
yeah, it went very well, and problems literally 20 defects at the moment, and we've been 2 months live.
Did you use like Kotlin stuff, like Cater and stuff, or did you stay on the same stack?
No, we use Spring Boot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Spring Boot. We are looking at the asynchronicity part of it and coroutines and stuff for later, but at the moment it's just standard as out the box stuff. Spring Boot integrated very well. It worked very well. We counted very few problems with the integration of everything, and we intersperse our Java and Kotlin. I mean, I know so the guys are actually very keen on Kotlin. So you can see guys doing, I've got a story, and they will actually, if there's a bit of Java code that's not difficult to migrate, they'll just remove and put the new one there and just do it story by story.
Did you folks already meet someone who doesn't like Kotlin? It's a serious question, Noah.
It's quite interesting. I had a guy in my team in the beginnings, and he was a very smart guy. And for instance, advent of code, he just solved all of them. And he even got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's such a kind of person, was really smart. And he could get all these things done with Java. So he was really kind of suspicious of, hey, I have this tool, I can make my stuff work. So why should I invest in other language? And actually for him, it took me quite long to persuade him. Now he's really over. At least once you're over, I've never seen someone going back anymore. I mean, maybe people try that, don't like it, then go back to Java because they probably didn't try hard enough. But once they're really over and see the benefits, they just don't go back anymore. But I think that's what I also see with Java people using it for already years, and just all these gore details. They have all made the certifications because in Java we have many certifications. They're proud of them, and they have actually a lot to lose or a lot to left behind, a lot to unlearn. Whereas younger people, which do not have this all this legacy in their heads, they're just freer to absorb something new. That's actually where a lot of effort is needed based on my experience.
There is one thing that annoys me with Kotlin, and I've already said that to James Ward, by the way. You're hooked into JetBrains today. Like you can't just do VS Code. Like I mean, you can if you really want to, but you can also code everything in Notepad if you want to. Like the IDE need is just too high at the moment, I feel. And I had like a 2017 MacBook Pro, and I really didn't want to switch, but the IDE just started being slow and too slow to use, and then the indexing was taking ages. And at some point, I just started going to some light micro-profile Java 17, and it was all fine. That's the only thing that I really, really find a little disappointing in Kotlin. It's like how tied we are to, IntelliJ, pretty much.
But this is also a hurdle you also see other people talking about. Say, I'm just too tied to my IntelliJ, or
I think a lot of people are complaining about that.
A lot of people are saying that, and I think it's a very healthy thing, right? You don't want to have any obligations whatsoever regarding any products.
It's I'm talking about the language server protocol, right? The LSP is just not there. Like as soon as you don't have that, and everything else is difficult.
Yeah.
How did you? What would be a question from my side is you mentioned that you had one person who learned on the project. And I still find it very, very amazing that you have a project which was on time and on budget, with still having someone in there who learns on the job. So how did you manage this? How did this look like? And the other question I had was, I forgot about it. I will ask once you answer this one.
So pair programming, I guess that's the easiest way. You do stories together, and then that was the simplest. I think that's the simplest way to help someone to get confident with Kotlin. And obviously, when they start slowly get confident, they start doing their own stories, and then we do reviews. We have 2 reviewers to review. You can't commit to master without 2 reviews. So therefore, people are looking at the code anyway, reviewing the code. Even to this day, with everyone doing it, we're still reviewing 2 reviews, and you give suggestions, and that works very well.
Cool. And the other question was essentially, you said that you still have some pieces in Java, and
yes,
it's decided on a case-by-case basis. what you migrate or what you keep in Java. So how did your team decide, or how did you come up with like some rules? What you do, what you don't do? Is there something like a hard cut where you say up to you?
So because we had the original database that was still doing the legacy, anything that was in there and was merged in, we chose not to migrate. Anything new was all Kotlin. But now we're at the point where there's very little code going in that. So now we can actually migrate more and more out of choice. But again, if you've got a really big service class that, that's doing a lot of stuff, it'll be harder to migrate. We're just migrating smaller classes, and it's very easy to see, oh, well, was this, data class, or the Pojo, and there's a small component that's doing something. That's quick and easy. You can write a test for it, which is quick and easy. And I find writing the tests and the verifications very nice. So it's decision by decision, whoever feels confident enough to do it. So you're right, it probably will never end that everything is migrated to Kotlin. Otherwise, you have to start, you get so many more lines of code.
Which is fine, yeah.
The main stuff and your engine, if it's easier, your engine bit of the body, if that's the bit that you want to migrate, that's usually the nicest one. But on the peripherals, you can probably leave. Use them.
Where did
I found? Sorry. Yeah, I found something interesting that simply migrating Java code to Kotlin didn't get a lot of good feedback. So the way we normally do it, we kind of try to package it with new features, and then under the hood we just do it. We do not try to make this too public. So we are migrating for so many points per sprint stuff from Java to Kotlin. I'm actually curious if you also encounter this. So you do it a bit under the radar because we as developers really want to do that. So the push to do this more internally than really external. Yeah, and it works. It works well. I'm actually curious how this works in your environments.
Yeah, well, for us, yes, it was case by case. It's obviously internal, as you say, and some people just chose not to do it when they were doing a story, which is maybe too complex. But if the story or the tasks were easier, then they would just do it because they didn't have too many changes. I think when you got a lot, 50 changes, that's becoming a bit heavy. When you got maybe 10 to 20 changes, and it's just easier to do. And if everyone feels comfortable, yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. I've got enough time. I'm not going over too much time. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it with massive change sets.
It's Boy Scout kind of, right? Extended Boy Scout approach. So
yes, exactly.
This boils down to I heard this the other day, where it's like there are no real greenfield projects anymore, right? So you always have some kind of legacy around, even if you say you switch from like in your cases, where you go from a monolithic Java written application and you say we start something fresh. You still have things you have to follow, and you still might reuse things. And even if you get into a company where say we start a new project greenfield, but there are libraries in place, there are targets in place where you deploy to, yada yada yada, and then it's okay to try out things. It's okay to say this worked, this didn't work. Coming back to things don't always go well, and just learn from it, and then decide as a team and say, okay, this was good, this wasn't good, or okay, let's go this way. All right.
How's I have a last question. Maybe you can.
Go for it.
Because I
need to move over, guys. Thank you.
So let's close it there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
See you around. Bye bye.
Go on, Julien. Last one.
My only question is, I think I've always seen Kotlin used in large companies. I was wondering how's the startup adoption? Because that would be the only way I see where you really have pure greenfield. So I'm wondering, I haven't seen any startup using Kotlin.
Actually, the team I'm working in, it's not a startup, but they didn't do software development by themselves, so they're third parties, and then they flew us in and said, okay, just make them develop software. And then there were some people just doing Java. From then on, we switched to Kotlin. From now, it's actually only Kotlin.
Okay.
I think, they are there. Yeah.
They are there, and interestingly, which gets back to what I said earlier with why does the business decide to use a technology, whereas the technicians would be the better choice to choose this. I was in contact with a few startups which were looking into Kotlin because of reasons we already touched on, with to attract new talent because they don't have any talent yet. And what they did is essentially Googling and looking for, and it's usually then this kind of, I want to think big, so I go for enterprise development something. And because so many of us are so enthusiastic about Kotlin, these articles come up, and then they see Kotlin. They go in, they see, okay, it can run on the JVM, and I know about the JVM, it's really reliable. But Kotlin seems to be nicer, and then they start from there. And it's usually like they do get traction because people want to use Kotlin, which is fine. This is one of these things where I say, I'm between the fence. Is this a good thing or a bad thing that someone who has no clue about technology and who doesn't need to be in this position decides on going with Kotlin? But yeah, so it's not that often, but from time to time it happens. And so there is this angle I've heard a few times now.
That's also the way we sell it at Rabobank. And I think, yeah, it's to a certain extent selling, but I think it's also the truth, because your image as a company, when you attract people with a new language, definitely has an impact. You make yourself a better tech company if you hire people with Kotlin skills. Saying that, and that's what you also then explain to managers, you don't really have to find Kotlin people. When you find good Java people, you can quite easily transfer them to Kotlin. Because that's an argument also when you say, yeah, there are not that many Kotlin developers out there, even though they're growing quite fast, because it's one of the fast growing languages. But transforming Java people to Kotlin isn't all such a big thing, giving people also, again, something to grow on. So I found that actually it turned out to be rather a good thing that you do something new than, yeah, something that introduces a lot of hurdles.
Now we know that Kotlin is more bleeding edge than Rust and Go. So.
Yes, yeah, it's just yet another argument. No, but just one last thing. Oh, sorry, I've seen a few job descriptions flowing around, and when they were about Kotlin, what they usually stated is like they do appreciate previous knowledge in Kotlin, but they are also happy with previous knowledge and experience in, and then things like Java, C#, you name it, is
OOP. Anything OOP.
Yeah, exactly. For example, right? Because then it's like these are, you have to learn a few new vocabularies, or a few new words, and then you get into it, and then it's like you get a feeling for it, and then once you are in this point where you can say, okay, I can make this computer beep. Now I want to know how I can write this in a nice way. You can deep dive in, and there are always like, I mean, also you have material about it. We do have KT Academy, which has I think even a special course for exactly that. Where I say, okay, you do have some previous knowledge in Kotlin, and now we get into how you do things the Kotlin way. So it's like, right.
That's the biggest thing we're investing, by the way, right now, Mike. That's where I sell most courses, the idiomatic Kotlin approach. That's really hot. Yeah. So I see.
It helps. It makes code nicer, but it shouldn't be. You shouldn't be scared away from it, because it's fine to write Kotlin like you would write Java, and then I know you're absolutely right, Julien, that it's like if you want to use alternative IDEs, it's a bit hard. On the other side, the integration within IntelliJ is amazing. If I think about how the optimization works, where I get like I start writing things because I was doing some Java before, going back to Kotlin, start writing, and this block starts to get like grayish. It's like, what the freak did I do here? It's just like Control Enter, and it's like, do you want to do it this way? So yeah, sure, right, and learn something.
I wrote it in the. I wrote about it in the. Sorry, I cut you. I commented about it. Sounded like I was crapping on IntelliJ. I freaking love the product, and especially for Kotlin.
Me too, absolutely.
Like if you have enough RAM, just when you write tests and you doing like filter not equals and not one, and he's like, no, do you want to just use none instead because
yes,
you look better in the code review. They're just amazing. Like that's the best, the most useful I've seen ever. It's just you still are tied to one product, but Sorry, Thierry.
No, I was just saying, when obviously we do the migrations, we copy from Java to Kotlin, obviously because of the nullables in Java, you get the question marks everywhere, and you got to watch that because obviously, you want to force it the opposite way if you can. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't want to stay. So people have to be aware of that and make sure that they go, no, that mustn't be a val, must be a val, blah, blah.
It's the first thing I miss when I go back to Java. It was a pain to get into because I was so trained over years, and I won't say how long, but way too many in Java, that everything can be null. And now I went to Kotlin and I've been there and I had to choose null really, really consciously. And then I got used to it. Then I go back to Java. It's like, right? It's like, And this is the learning curve. It is fine.
And the extension functions I love too.
Oh yes.
I don't overuse it, but
yes,
I do like it.
Extension
function. Extension. The one string dot.
Sure.
And I've got ones like from strings to dates kind of thing and little things, and obviously you've got to be careful, but they are really great. I mean, you write tests for them too, so
actually, whole Kotlin wouldn't be Kotlin without extension work, because actually amazing. I think 70% using Kotlin are all extension work without even knowing it. Also, all the collections if you look into the code of Kotlin, it's just full. All your tests, of course, too, they should be and so on. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite features, by the way. It's like scoped extension functions. I love this.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's really
that's
nice.
the idiomatic part, to use the scope functions. That's a very interesting subject. Yeah, indeed. And it's actually really something which is only found in Kotlin. I haven't seen in other languages, even though you could make it, but it's really something Kotlin-ish. Yeah.
Right. I think we could go on for hours. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, folks. For everyone still watching, thanks for sticking with us. We try to get something together for next month as well, so stay tuned. If you have any questions, I think the easiest way is to contact us on the Kotlin Slack. As Julien is there, myself is there, Thierry, I hunted you down there as well. So ping us if you have any questions for us, or Pauline, we will play proxy for it. Thank you so much. It was really, really nice. I love this.
Thank you, Holger.
Same here. Really helpful. Excellent. And maybe as a last note, thanks, Julien, for also announcing the Kotlin Dev Days, because in the Netherlands, it's really a big thing. I think it's the only really big Kotlin conference, 19th of May. It's in the arena of Amsterdam, so in the soccer stadium. I think it's also a very impressive location. We expect
the lineup is crazy dope.
What do you say?
The lineup is dope.
Yeah, lineup is also quite well. Yeah, we also have we try to do actually tracks for all aspects of Kotlin, so not only server side but also multi-platform, Android, also with function stuff. Actually, the whole ecosystem you can find nowadays in Kotlin, we're represented with a very nice indeed lineup. So as a last note, have a look at it.
I will put the link in. Thanks, Julien, for putting it in the chat. I will put the link into the description, and hopefully see a few of you there. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Thanks, Holger, for